You have to wonder what they were thinking. How did the tenant farmers ever get it into their minds that they had the right to keep the grapes and vineyards that they did not own? How could they justify killing the owner's servants and then his son? Our common sense readily makes the judgment that divine justice demands punishment for these evil deeds. It takes little imagination to see a parallel between then and now. Basing himself on Isaiah 5, our first reading, Jesus tells the people that the vineyard is the people of Israel. The vineyard in Isaiah 5 is cut down because the people of Israel have not been faithful to their God. The vineyard in the parable from the Gospel of Matthew is a source of turmoil because the workmen have been keeping the fruit for themselves. The workmen here are the elders and leaders of the Jewish people. They were more concerned with themselves than with the work of God's kingdom. Jesus came at a very bad time for the Jewish leaders. Politically, these leaders were winning concessions from Rome that would keep them in its power. Financially, the leaders of the people were afraid that they would be thrown into poverty if they lost their position. To the leaders of the Jewish people, this was not a good time for a Messiah. But the world was waiting. God was ready. The timing was really perfect. The extent of the Roman Empire, the way Rome interlocked culture, economics, and military conquest made the timing perfect to spread the gospel. 800 years ago, a man was born who embraced the idea and the attitude of bearing fruit for God so completely that he reformed the entire church. His influence is still felt. This man, whose feast we celebrated last Wednesday, is St. Francis of Assisi. Francis recognized early in his life that concern about power, position, and finances could lead a person to act like the wicked vine dressers. At the time of his radical conversion to Christ, Francis was about to inherit his father's position and his father's power. His friends told him that the time was not right for him to turn so completely to God. He should wait until he was well established. Then he could be generous to charity. But Francis heard a call for immediate action. He could see himself embracing a life of sin if he didn't listen to this call. He decided to concentrate all his energy on bearing fruit for God. So before the civil authorities and in the presence of his father, he renounced all his possessions and embraced a life of bearing fruit for God. In his poverty, Francis became the richest man in the world, calling the sun his brother and the moon his sister. In many ways, St. Francis of Assisi was a Christian romantic, excited by the true meaning of following Christ. The crucial point of the homily is that Jesus, the now vindicated, risen Lord, addresses each of us as tenants of God's vineyard today. He turns our judgment upon those who rejected him and the prophets before him back onto ourselves. Have we, in fact, produced the good fruit of justice and love? Do we at times forget that we are only tenants and imagining ourselves as owners, doing as we please? Do we amass more of its fruit than we could possibly use while others die of starvation? Do we also act with violence against our fellow human beings, as sons and daughters of God? The prayer of our liturgy today is that we will receive the grace to open our hearts to the prophetic voice of Jesus and become a people who produce abundant good fruit in accord with God's will. Amen.